Oh my god, you are so stupid.
If you had a brain, you'd be dangerous.
Look at you. You're disgusting. Nobody will ever want you.
Why can't you just do something good for a change?
You're useless.
You're good for nothing.
You're nothing without
I
me.
wish I had never had you.
If you had a brain, you'd be
The
dangerous.
world would be a better
You're
place without you.
disgusting.
I wish you were dead. Idolizing, devaluing, and discarding are three things that you will see with narcissists and regarding narcissistic abuse. It's their MO. For anyone who has been in a relationship with a narcissist, these three factors will sound very familiar. Idolizing is love bombing. Love bombing is a manipulation tactic used by narcissists to get you hooked. This is also the time in the new relationship where they will get to know you and learn what your likes and dislikes are. But do not be fooled. They are not learning about you because they are in love with you or even like you. It's to gain information about you that they can file away to use against you later on. The love bombing happens when a new relationship begins with a narcissist. During this time, the victim just can't get enough of this new perfect person who seems to be a gift from heaven. The victim wonders how they could be so lucky to have found this wonderful man or woman who just adores them to the very core. Unfortunately, none of it is true. It's just an act. It's a fairy tale that will end very ugly. Love bombing is also a very dangerous time because the narcissist is so charming and so convincing that the victim will almost do anything for them or buy them anything they want. I am reminded of a woman I used to know who had a Prince Charming love bomb her and sweep her off of her feet. Within a month of knowing this guy, he was living with her. I should also mention that he had just come out of a relationship that he didn't end, and, well, he had no other place to go, and she was single with lots of money. Within a month of this relationship, he had charmed her enough to get her to buy him a car, a Dodge Charger. He also convinced her to buy a cabin, which she did. And that's not all. He also managed to talk her into selling her home, a home that had belonged to her parents and where she had grown up in, where all her childhood memories were, so that she could buy them both a big, beautiful, brand new house miles away from her family and friends. The reason she gave to selling her home was that it had gotten to be too big. But the house they were looking at was easily bigger than the one she already had. They also told me that the reason they wanted to buy a house together was because their kids got along and were good friends. Because a lot of people will buy a house together simply because their kids get along. I honestly don't know what he was saying to her, but it must have been very convincing. That and the fact that she was probably codependent and just desperate to be loved and fell for every BS word that came out of his mouth. Love bombing can also be explained as mirroring. It's when the narcissist mirrors the victim. Everything you want, they want. Your goals are their goals. If you want to have 3 children, they want to have 3 children too. If your favorite food is lasagna, their favorite food is also lasagna. They will tell you that you are the air they breathe, the ground they walk on. They think about you all the time. Within only a few short weeks, they can have you convinced they are your soulmate. Sadly, it's all a lie. They are simply playing you to make you their source of supply. In the case of the couple I used to know, he was using her in the beginning because he needed a place to live since his ex-girlfriend ended the relationship. When he had established that, and knowing full well she had money, she became a source of supply to buy him all the expensive things he had ever wanted. When the narcissist starts to grow tired of their source of supply, the devaluing begins. Devaluing can show itself in many different ways. Emotional, verbal, and even physical abuse, silent treatments, taking off for a few days or refusing to answer text or phone calls, withholding sex and refusing to hug or kiss or even be in the same room as the victim, criticizing the victim over everything and shaming them. It quite literally is when the mask comes off and the narcissist shows their true colors. The devaluing phase can be very confusing for the victim because often they are made to feel as though they are the problem and that they have done something wrong and that it is all their fault. Narcissists will never admit to being at fault, ever. And even when they know they are at fault, they will still not accept responsibility. Instead, they will project their own guilt onto the victim, accusing them of what they themselves are guilty of. If the narcissist yells at their child simply because they feel they have a right to and the victim speaks up about it, the narcissist will turn that around and accuse the victim of being a bad parent. They may say things like, well, if you weren't such a screw-up raising these children, I wouldn't have to yell at them. By the time everything is said and done, the narcissist has justified their behavior yet again, and the victim is left feeling ashamed. And it doesn't matter what the situation is. The narcissist will always justify why they have a right to treat others like dirt. But when they get told about their behavior, they are very good at playing the victim. They will never accept any sort of responsibility. It's always the victim and everyone else who is to blame. It's never them. Gaslighting is a big part of the devaluing phase as well, and it's a very useful manipulation tactic for the narcissist. Gaslighting is when the narcissist will confuse the victim and deny ever doing anything wrong, or it's the victim that is at fault. For example, the victim and the narcissist decide to get rid of a lot of clutter and have a yard sale. The narcissist tells the victim they can sell a particular item they own as they don't need or want it anymore. Say, for example, an old cell phone. Months later, the narcissist will go looking for that cell phone and ask the victim where it is. They'll even bring up the yard sale and say, "Did you sell my cell phone at that yard sale?" Because a few months has gone by already, the victim will begin to question whether they did or not, even though they will have a memory of the narcissist saying it was okay to sell it. The victim starts to have false memories that they may have seen it recently and will even go looking for it. All the while, the narcissist is fuming over their lost cell phone and tells the victim, "I hope you didn't sell that because it wasn't yours to sell." Remember, this yard sale happened several months ago. Why would the narcissist even mention the yard sale in the first place? Because they are gaslighting. They could care less about that old phone, and they know darn well that they gave permission for it to be sold, but they love seeing their victim being kept off balance. It's meant to confuse and upset the victim and gain control over them. Gaslighting is crazy making at its best, or worst. It really does make you feel crazy and keeps you off balance. The discard happens when the narcissist has found themselves a new source of supply, and chances are that they have been seeing this person behind your back, love bombing them just like they did you for quite some time. And make no mistake that the narcissist has been doing a lot of talking about you to the new source of supply, and none of it will be good. Narcissists love to label people as crazy or incompetent. Chances are that they have told the new source of supply that you are unstable and probably bipolar or even schizophrenic. If you have children together, they'll be telling this new person how terrible a parent you are and how the children fear you because you are so unstable. They'll spin a great tale about the night you went right off your rocker and they had to save the children from you and even you from yourself. They will tell the new source of supply that they tried to make it work, but you were the one who ruined it. And sadly, the source of supply will believe every word, just like you did during the love bombing phase. And it's not just the new source of supply the narcissist will tell these tales to. They will even tell your friends and your family how unstable you are, how they tried to save the relationship and make it work. It's during the devaluing that the flying monkeys will surface, and one of those flying monkeys will certainly be the new source of supply. The flying monkeys are those closest to the narcissist who haven't seen them without their mask. They are tools used against the victim so that when the victim tries to tell their side of the story or speaks out, the flying monkeys will do the narcissist's dirty work for them. Remember back to the couple I referred to when speaking about the love bombing phase? The woman that I spoke of was used as a flying monkey against me. The narcissist and I had words that would end our working relationship and our so-called friendship. To make things short, I finally told the narcissist in the group how I felt about how things were going in the business we shared. A few days later, I got some nasty text. Not from him, but from her. In fact, he never spoke another word to me or even texted me again. Instead, he did what narcissists are good at doing. He hid behind one of his flying monkeys, his new source of supply who was still being love bombed at the time, and she wouldn't be the only flying monkey to attack me. A few months later, I spoke out on a Facebook page I have about what had happened. Shortly after, another person who I had once known came on and said things like I was being unprofessional and crying out for help and that I needed to think about going for therapy. Notice the reference to being crazy? The discard never ends well, and it's always very ugly. The victim is blamed, made to look crazy, while the narcissist just strolls off to do the same thing to the new source of supply. No empathy and not a thought about what they did to their victim emotionally and mentally. If you have found yourself discarded lately, my advice is this: let them go and start doing your research into narcissistic abuse. I even recommend reading up on codependency and being an empath. And even if it was you who did the discarding to the narcissist, you can still expect to deal with flying monkeys and being blamed and dealing with a lot of shame. Just because the monkey is off your back doesn't mean that the circus has left town. Regardless if the narcissist discarded you or you ended it with them, you will always be the one to blame. You will always be the crazy one, and they will always be the victim. And I know that during the early stages after the discard, you may feel crazy, even feel shamed. But I have some very important words for you that you need to understand and realize. It's not your fault, and it never was. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to cry and scream. Expect to have some sleepless nights. Expect to feel a lot of anxiety as your brain tries to figure it all out. It's okay to be mad, but please don't let the anger consume you. In time, it will all begin to make sense and you will heal from this. Every day you are healing. Idolize, devalue, discard. You are being played right from the very beginning.
Domestic abuse is not just physical abuse. The 6 key components of domestic abuse are verbal, emotional, physical, sexual, financial, and spiritual. If you believe you may be a victim of domestic abuse, there is help out there for you. Please visit the web to find shelters or support agencies in your area. You are not alone, and you can break the cycle of abuse.